Today, my friends, we are getting started with a new video series in JavaScript. We are going to be talking about, please drum roll, yes, object-oriented JavaScript. Whether you're a beginner or an advanced coder in JavaScript, this video series will allow you to get a firm grasp on all the underlying concepts that you want to be aware of when it comes to working with objects in JavaScript. So grab yourself a drink, get comfy, and enjoy the ride. Greetings, dear friends, fellow programmers, and those aspiring to be. Welcome back to Marko Code Academy, a place where we are growing as developers every day. Alright, now we know that we will be talking about object-oriented programming in JavaScript today, but why should we care about it? I mean, it's all about those objects, but what makes them so special and important that people who made JavaScript decided that even though JavaScript was created as a functional language, that they should have the capabilities of JavaScript, at least pretending to be an object-oriented language. So let's find out. You can think of object-oriented programming as a way for us developers to translate real-life objects, whether living or unliving, into code objects. And those things in real life can be completely represented by those objects in our code. Okay, let's imagine that we are responsible for making a virtual zoo. And instead of having hundreds, if not thousands of variables dedicated to each animal, we will have objects which are going to be elephant, giraffe, or lion, and then we will manipulate those objects in a way more subtle and classy way that is going to be way more elegant and make our code way more readable, easy to navigate, understand, and basically benefits are just endless. Because we will be able to make each of those objects contain just the functionalities and properties which are relevant to that specific animal. For example, if you are working with an elephant object, it will have different capabilities than if you are working with fish object, because fish does not have the capability to walk, it has the capability to swim. Also, elephant cannot swim, it can just walk or run. So you have to have that in mind, because if we do not use objects, we would have to make all of those different behaviors in a functional, procedural way, which is not fun, trust me. And in JavaScript, basically almost everything is an object. And each object is a collection of properties where each of those properties is a key value pair. Now, let me show you in real life how it looks like. Okay, let's meet Bob, our virtual pet. Now, Bob here has a specific set of properties that are assigned to him. He has a name, which is Bob, as you already know. He has a species, which is a dog. He also has age. We know that he's 5 years old. And also he has one method called bark. And when you would invoke it, we would just print to the console, because that's what Bob does. Now, I said that everything in JavaScript would look a lot like procedural programming, and you may be wondering, how would that look like for our favorite virtual pet, Bob? Well, it would look something like this. As you can see, we have a separate variable name, separate variable species, separate variable age. We also have a function called bark. And this right here is how things would look like if we were not able to work with objects. And when you think about it, this is going to be a huge problem if we would be using more than a few animals. Because name would not be able to be name. It would have to be something depicting that this is a dog or a Bob, and then we would end up with a gazillion variables to allow that behavior to exist. In our case, we can do it way simpler with objects. Basically, objects allow us to bundle all the relevant related data into a single block that is behaving as a single whole. That way, making our code more modular and easier to follow. Now, let's head to our Blackboard and talk about object-oriented programming in a more theoretical way. See you there! Object-oriented programming isn't just about making things look neat. It is also going to provide us with real-life benefits and make us much better developers. The things and those benefits I'm talking about are exactly the ones you can see right here. I'm talking about encapsulation, which basically means that all the properties and methods of a single class are going to be bundled in a single set of functionalities that are all part of this big thing that we call a class. And when we instantiate that class, an object. And then what we also have is reusability. Why is this so important? Well, when you think about it, when you have a class defined, you can instantiate it as many times as you like, and every time you will be reusing the same template that was defined by a class. You will have all the functionalities that we have defined on the class level in all of the instances of that class, which means we are saving a lot of time by not having to repeat ourselves and rewrite the same exact functionalities over and over again. And then we have scalability, which is very important. When you're building large-scale applications, you definitely do see a lot of benefits from reusing your code and by basically not having to repeat yourself many times, which means you will be using less memory, which means you will have more resources at your disposal, which then means that you will be able to conform more users on your application than you would be if you were not utilizing object-oriented programming. And finally, we will end things about discussion about maintainability, which is also very logical if you think about it. If you have a solid template that is being reused over and over again, you can easily just fix some issues that you're experiencing or extend your class by adding additional methods or properties, and all the objects that are being created out of that class template are going to inherit those behaviors and properties, which means that maintainability of your code will be significantly better because you just need to update things in a single location, not across multiple places where you're creating your regular pieces of functionality that are going to be copied and pasted and defined over and over again. So now, if we go back to our discussion about our animals and our favorite dog, I'm talking about you, Bob, you know that you will be able to reuse your animal class as many times as you like, and every instance of that class is going to inherit all the behaviors and also properties that we have defined on the animal class. Which means we can basically create as many Bobs as we like, and they will all have the same properties and same functionalities at their disposal. And now that we know and fully understand what are the traits and features and benefits that come with object-oriented programming, it is time to apply it in action. We're going to extend the capabilities of our favorite virtual dog. We know him as Bob, and we will teach him to introduce himself. Let's head to our IDE. And we're back. As you can see, I have added introduce method to our Bob object. And now we have this console log right here where we are printing the name and the species of our object. And basically we have to use this keyword to let JavaScript engine know that we want the name of this specific instance of an object to be used, and that properties of that specific instance should be used to display value. So in this case, this .name is going to be this name right here, and this .species is going to be this species. Now, when we are working with a single instance of an object, it is self-explanatory. We know that it is going to be Bob and the species is going to be dog. But if we had multiple object instances, it would not be so clear. I will show you in the upcoming examples why that is the case. But for now, we just take it that we have introduce method, and then when we invoke it, we should get, exactly what we expected. Hi, I'm Bob the dog. So we can see that this name and this species does exactly what we expected. Yep, it seems that Bob is a really smart virtual dog. I hope you agree. Who's a good boy? But at this point, we should be aware that Bob is just a single instance of an object, and we do not have a way to replicate it. I mean, we do, but we are not talking about that. We want to create a template that is going to allow us to create multiple instances of objects that are animals. So let us head to our IDE so I can show you how we would create something like that. And here we are. We can see that we have an animal function, and it expects to receive 3 values when we invoke it. It is expecting to receive name, species, and age. And then we can see that we have this .name, this .species, and this .age that are getting assigned each of those respective values that we pass as parameters to this function. And also, of course, we have introduce method, which we wanted to include here, so I can show you that we indeed can be very flexible, and that this keyword is going to allow us to display messages of any specific animal whose instance we are working with. So what we have here is a set of properties which get assigned values that we have passed as parameters to this function right here. And practically this function is called constructor function, and we will have a dedicated video, which is going to be the next video, just for that concept itself. So we will be talking about it in depth. But for now, we can see that this is everything we need to replicate everything that our Bob the dog had at its disposal. So let us create Bob once again. We can do that by using a new keyword and then follow it with the constructor function, which is animal, and pass all the necessary parameters, which are name, species, and age. And when we have done that, we have successfully created a new instance of animal object. We can do the same for another instance. We can create Whiskers, a cat. So the name is Whiskers, species is cat, and age is, for example, 3. Then we can invoke introduce method for both Bob and Whiskers, and we'll see what is going to be displayed, even though we can see in comments here, but yeah, let's run it. So as you can see, our introduce methods work perfectly with different instances of objects, and different relevant information about each instance is being displayed. That is all because of this keyword. Now, I do not want you to worry about this keyword too much, because we will be covering it in depth in the upcoming series, dedicated just to it. And now, when we think about it, we have just successfully created a blueprint for generating animals. We can create as many animal instances as we like. We are not limited by anything except memory, and we can do as many as we like, and everything will work perfectly. That is the power of object-oriented programming. And yeah, that sums it up when it comes to the basics about objects in JavaScript. In the upcoming video, we'll be talking about constructor functions. And if you would like to see that lesson and all the other upcoming lessons dedicated to object-oriented JavaScript, I highly recommend you to subscribe to the channel, turn the notifications on, and that way you will not miss a single upload. And until the next video, thank you for watching and have an amazing day. Happy coding!